Our team coverage continues right now after a 7.9 magnitude earthquake rocked Alaska overnight.
This triggered a tsunami watch along our coastlines that was just canceled just after 4 o'clock this morning. Let's check in with those weather conditions though first. Seth?
All right, so Alaska's still waking up, and really, honestly and truly, it was a lot going on there within the past few hours, and I want to show you exactly what we are talking about. That epicenter there in just off the Kodiak Island, and once again a 7.9 earthquake generating those tsunami waves. Those tsunami waves, of course, you know, they're generated by the abrupt movement of the ocean floor, usually after an earthquake, and that was sending out those waves out towards southeast Alaska, throughout British Columbia, and the coastline of Washington. Good news is, early this morning, we have now seen that everything has been since expired. So those tsunami watches that were in effect, say, along our ocean beaches and across the eastern straits have now since been expired after everything is calming down after that 7.9 earthquake just off of Kodiak Island.
Nevertheless, tense moments for so many people. Seismologists at the University of Washington watching all of this closely as well right now.
Let's get right out to Como's Suzanne Font, who joins us from the UW Seismology Lab with more.
We've got a very valuable resource in our community here, the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. And here there are a lot of seismologists, about a dozen or so, 2 of them on call all around the clock. We brought in Bill Still very early this morning. Thank you. You're the communications director. You've got a very interesting visual here. Tell us about the earthquake that we had off the coast of Alaska and what it looked like.
Sure. So the earthquake off the coast of Alaska was a strike-slip fault, meaning one block of rock moved laterally alongside another, and there wasn't very much vertical displacement. Now, our Cascadia subduction zone works more this way, where one block thrusts up and over another, lifting the seafloor, generating a tsunami. So the tsunami generated from this earthquake today was less than a foot anywhere in Alaska, so we were lucky.
Let's take a closer look at the maps. A lot of people at home curious about the impact and the activity. Yes. Can you describe this?
So this is the origin of the earthquake, and these are the hot ones, or the very strong shaking to rather weak shaking out here. And you can see the nearest population centers were distant from the earthquake, so they got relatively weak shaking.
And just a little more time, can you describe the seismographs here?
Sure. So these are Camp Sherman at Mount Rainier and at Kitsap County and at Mount Hood. And you can see throughout the Pacific Northwest, we shook pretty hard from this earthquake.
And can you describe the red? Some of us are curious.
Yeah, this red here is where it's shaking so hard it's kind of off scale. We can't trust the reading because the ground is just shaking harder than the seismometer can keep up with.
Okay, so a quick recap for people who are waking up this morning, hearing about the 7.9 earthquake off the coast of Alaska.
So a 7.9 earthquake occurred last night. A tsunami warning was issued, so people were evacuating on the coast. There's a lot of fear initially that this might be a tsunami-genic earthquake. That was called off about a half an hour ago, and so people are beginning to stand down.
And the lesson for us here at home?
Well, we're lucky this time. We didn't get a big tsunami. If this happened off our coast, we very much likely would have a tsunami if it was in the Cascadia subduction zone. So I guess we could consider that a good exercise for folks on the coast.
All right. Thank you so much. Bill Steele here with the Seismic Lab at UW. Again, seismologists calling this a wake-up call, a very important lesson for all of us. We're live here at UW. Suzanne Fawn, back to you.
Yeah, and you know, Washington Emergency Management here in the last couple of moments tweeting, this is a good reminder. We had hours of warning following an earthquake in Alaska, but an earthquake off our own coast, your first warning would be the earthquake itself, and you might only have minutes to get to higher ground, which is the warning that went out this morning in Alaska. Get you the latest here. We've had more than 24 aftershocks by my count this morning since the main earthquake at 12:31 in Alaska, 1:31 our time this morning. The fire chief in Seward praising his community for doing the right thing and evacuating in a calm and controlled but quick fashion to get to higher ground. Here's one of those warnings that went out from, like, Kodiak Police.
This is not a drill. This is an actual tsunami warning. Everybody get at least 100 feet above sea level. High school parking lot. Pillar Mountain is safe. However, it is very backed up right now, so you won't make it there in 5 minutes. So best place right now is a high school parking lot. Everybody get out of your homes and make it a safe place.
And I do want to emphasize here that we've had no reports of damage or injuries. In fact, I wanted to share this video because as this guy drives through town, What we scan here are the buildings, and what we look for is any evidence of damage. And it's hard to make out a lot of it because he's driving by so quickly, but we don't see any significant damage to structures in this video. Just one more sign here that it looks as though Alaska certainly may have dodged a bullet here this morning, as well as much of the Pacific Northwest, now that those tsunami watches and warnings have been canceled. But still, really tense moments, certainly there in Alaska and beyond this morning, guys.
Yeah, ideally, Kale, during the early morning hours, some really tense moments along our coast and the streets of Juan de Fuca overnight as the earthquake triggered a tsunami watch right here.
As we know, I've been telling you, it has since been canceled, but is a powerful reminder to be ready in case of an emergency. KOMO's Lee Stoll joins us now live in Port Townsend with that. Tsunami was predicted to roll in about now, which we know is not the case. Lee?
Yeah, thankfully, when those alerts were first going out, they were predicting that any residual effect from the earthquake or the tsunami was going to hit the Port Townsend area here at about 5:55. Again, everything was canceled just as we were coming into Port Townsend at about 4 o'clock this morning. That is certainly good news. But as we've been talking about reminders, this is a reminder behind us here that we have a lot of people who live in these coastal communities that live in marinas on their boats. A lot of people have been getting ready for work. And this, again, just a reminder for them that radios and alert systems really are their lifelines in situations just like this. Just across from where we are standing right now is one of 3 tsunami alert sirens here in Port Townsend. Pretty tall, almost the size of a sailboat mast, even bigger than that. Now, if it had gone off, everyone here and in a packed campground just a block away certainly would have heard it. Now, we just talked to Ben Floodquist. He is heading to work at the ferry terminal. He was asleep on his tugboat, didn't even know there was an earthquake until we stopped him on the pier.
News to me, not surprising where I live, but news to me. Would have thought we would have heard some sirens kicking off or something. Maybe they're a little gun shy after what's been going on with a lot of the public alert systems lately, like over in Hawaii and whatnot.
Now, again, this area was under the lower level watch, not the higher level warning. Ben says if a tsunami had been more likely or thought to be more severe, he would have been surprised to get a call from other ferry crews, maybe to rush over and secure the boat, again, over at the Port Townsend Coupeville Ferry Terminal. He's never heard the siren go off. He just moved here, again, on his tugboat about a week ago. But again, this warning not causing a lot of worry this morning. That cancellation, of course, coming at a pretty good time as everyone is just trying to get to work. Back to you.
Well, just as soon as we heard about the earthquake and possible tsunami watch, we also sent our crews out to the Pacific coast.
KOMO's Keith Eldridge is live in Westport and Grays Harbor County, an area that knows all too well the damage a tsunami can cause. Keith?
Absolutely, and really good news out here. Scary moments for everybody here at Westport. The fishing fleet's in right now. Let me show you. They're on the water, and this, had it happened, it would have come right at high tide just before 5 o'clock. So that really would have been a challenging thing for them to deal with. But for right now, they're all standing down. Some people actually, as I'm learning on social media, did take the opportunity to evacuate, get to higher ground, because they just said that they wanted to play it safe. Well, they have since returned, and they do have very good evacuation plans here. They just haven't really had a chance to put them into full motion yet. Fortunately, no sirens went off this morning. It was just a watch out here on the coast, and they watched and waited, and no sirens, no warning, and no wave action here to speak of. But with the evacuation routes, they also have a brand new platform. It's a tsunami building prepared and planned to withstand a tsunami. It's at the Ocasta School, which is the elementary school, the junior high, and the high school, all on one part of the campus. People are told if you can't get to higher ground in the hills, to actually go to that school and go to the higher ground at the top floor that sits about 3 stories up. But it's all designed to withstand any kind of tsunami that comes in. What would happen, it would hit the coast, come in through Grays Harbor itself, come back around and come back this way. They say that they would be able to withstand that. But if it does happen off the coast, they say you have 20 minutes to get to wherever you're going. Fortunately, this morning they had a couple of hours because of the location of the earthquake up in Alaska. fortunately for them, they didn't have to go through with the actual plan of getting out of here. So for right now, Westport, sleepy town this morning. A lot of people scared for a while. Now they're just trying to go on with life. Reporting live in Westport, Keith Eldridge, KOMO News.
All right, Keith, thanks so much for getting out to Westport so early. And we do want to remind you, and this coming in from the emergency officials as well, tsunami sirens only go off when there is a tsunami warning, not when there is a tsunami watch. So don't let that deter you from saying, well, something didn't work in my community. Again, a reminder, tsunami sirens only go off when there is a tsunami warning, not a watch. Regardless, as everyone mentioned, everything has now since been expired. Let's talk about what's going on here. You saw, Keith, rather wet in Westport, and we are rather drenched across areas of our ocean beaches. Up and down our ocean beaches and across areas of our eastern strait is where we're seeing some of that rain, and that rain continues to come down quite heavy at times from Jefferson and over to Clallam counties. Your hour-by-hour forecast calling for those temps in the low 40s at 8 a.m. We're still going to be wet and some of that rain quite heavy at times through the afternoon and evening with temperatures in the mid-40s.
So back in 2011, after the massive earthquake in Japan, Grays Harbor County experienced some rough waves. During a tsunami advisory, there were voluntary evacuations in parts of Moclips, and a beach in Westport was closed. California and Oregon saw some damaging waves that hit docks and moored boats. In Brookings, Oregon, 2 people had to be rescued when a strong wave actually knocked them into the water.
Scientists say it's only a matter of time before the big one hits here. If history is an indication, we are overdue for a mega quake on that Cascadia Fault, which can hit every 400 to 600 years. Experts say that type of quake on the Cascadia Fault would destroy bridges and roads and could cause the ground to drop by 6 feet in some places. A tsunami triggered by a major quake on the Cascadia Fault would likely come ashore in our state about 20 minutes later, and we will continue to follow this story throughout the day should anything change. Just keep it right here and over on our KOMO News Facebook and our Twitter pages.